Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So yesterday I saw this story and I want to share with you, share my thoughts about it. So if you can bear with me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so here's the story. You have this NFL player by the name of Jahleel Addae. He plays with the Los Angeles Chargers. Um, this guy posted a video of him and his white wife. And in the video, they are toasting to more light-skinned kids. So he's in a gathering, with his friends, with his white wife and some of his white friends, and even a dark-skinned black man is with him as well. And also, this guy is a dark-skinned man, as you can see in this photograph right here. Here's him and his wife. So he's toasting to more light-skinned kids. And this is a display of self-hatred. And I'm going to just get into it. I'm going to explain like why this is problematic. It should be obvious, and I think most people get it. But let me stop sharing my screen for a second. The link to this article will be in the description box. You can also watch the video. The video is featured in the article. And I will get to your comments if there are any people commenting. I know it's very early in the morning, so there may not be many people. But this raises several issues. I mean, first of all, it's an example of what W.E.B. Du Bois called double consciousness. And basically, that's when you view yourself through the eyes and through the lens of your oppressor. Here you have the same type of hatred towards your own black skin as your oppressor had toward black people and continues to have towards black people. So here you have a dark-skinned man basically excited and happy about the prospect of having kids who don't look anything like him, kids who are much lighter than him. And this is the ultimate sign of self-hatred. A lot of times, you have dark-skinned people who have been taught to hate themselves. And unfortunately, a lot of the self-hatred that they are taught is not directly coming from a white individual or anything like that. Often it's your own family members, it's your own quote unquote friends that have all these negative things to say about dark-skinned people. We are all familiar with all the dark-skinned jokes that we hear in the black community. We're familiar with it. We know of people in our community who have been teased for being dark-skinned, who've been called all kinds of names for being dark-skinned. We see this all the time. So what happens is dark-skinned people internalize a lot of that negativity. They internalize that self-hatred, and they adopt, essentially Stockholm syndrome, where they basically identify with those who hate them. They identify with, the people that say dark skin is ugly and all that kind of stuff. So they begin to project that. And a lot of times what they want to do is they want to annihilate themselves genetically by marrying lighter women or men, whichever the case may be, marrying a white woman or a very light woman, so that they will have kids that will not remind them of themselves. They want to have kids that are not dark-skinned because they hate their dark skin. They want to have kids with less African features because they hate their African features. They hate their full noses. They hate their full lips. They hate their dark skin. So they want to have kids that don't look anything like them. And that's why a lot of times they will marry these, white women or very light women. They don't want to have kinky, nappy African hair, in their words. Like, that's how they describe black hair. Black hair is more in line with West African, African hair texture. They call that nappy hair. They call it nappy hair because, we've been taught and programmed to hate ourselves. I mean, that's why, the perm industry is so big. That's why, many mothers will fry their daughter's hair, use hot combs and all that kind of stuff to fry out the kinks from their hair, because of this self-hatred that is so pervasive in our black community. We know this very well. We hear people say stuff like this all the time, talking about you nappy-headed this, you nappy-headed that. And then they're like, oh, so-and-so has good hair. And they use that term good hair, not to describe people with full African hair, afros or anything like that. They use that term to describe people who have hair that resembles white hair that's either straight or wavy. And even some of these, people that are fighting against colorism and stuff like that, they had colorism issues too. They have self-hatred that they're dealing with as well. Some of these people refer to somebody having straighter hair as having good hair. Just because somebody's hair is straighter, that doesn't make it good. But this is the mentality that leads people to say things like this, to talk about how, it's something great to have lighter skinned kids. And I remember growing up, like you had a lot of Black women, for instance, who would say that they want to marry somebody that's light skinned so that they could have light skinned children with good hair. And we see that this mentality is among a lot of men as well. A lot of men have that self-hatred, and it's common among dark-skinned men, unfortunately. A lot of dark-skinned men, the first thing that they do when they have any kind of status or any kind of success is they go out there and get a white woman. They go out there and get, if they can't get a white woman, they get somebody that's damn near white because of this self-hatred. And it just reminds me of this scene from the movie that Spike Lee did years ago called Jungle Fever, where he has Wesley Snipes in it. He's the main actor in that film. And as you all know, Wesley Snipes is a dark-skinned brother. And in the film, he talks about like all the derogatory names he was called as a kid for being dark-skinned. And his character in the film marries a light-skinned Black woman, a very, very light-skinned white, and then he has an affair with an actual white woman. And he talks about like how that self-hatred that he was brought up with is what taught him to hate himself and taught him to admire these white and light women and to go after those type of women. But yeah, it's just a shame, man. And it's just a shame that, a dark-skinned man, as like a sister was pointing out, like on my Facebook, like one of my Facebook friends was pointing out how it's just horrible. Like this dark-skinned man came from a dark-skinned woman, but yet he has no respect for Black dark-skinned women or Black people, period. And she talked about like the double standards. Like when it comes to a dark-skinned man, this society still views him as a dark-skinned man is attractive, but darker-skinned women don't have that same kind of status in this white man society and stuff. Because a lot of times, people equate, the darker skin with, manhood and masculinity and stuff like that. So a lot of times, darker skinned men are more accepted and stuff like that. And it's just a shame that, a darker skinned man who, that reaches a certain status has no desire to be with Black women or darker skinned Black women in particular. Instead, they go after these white women. So it's just messed up, man. And this whole colorism issue, it's an example of Black people basically imitating their oppressor. Black people internalizing the values that their oppressor gave them and using it to create their own hierarchy within their own community. So in the larger society, Black people are placed at the bottom of that society. So what you have is in the Black community, unfortunately, even to this day, you have like a social hierarchy that's imitating the white dominant hierarchy, where, you had the lighter skinned Black people at the top of that social hierarchy, and you have darker skinned Black people at the bottom of that hierarchy. And because of that, you have situations like this where a dark skinned man will have so much self-hatred towards himself that he cheers his own genetic annihilation. He cheers having kids that look nothing like him. He cheers, being with a white woman and having a situation where this white woman is going to inherit his wealth and stuff like that. But this is what happens in this society. And then another thing that I want to address is like how people make this a gender issue, like they use this as fodder for the gender war and stuff like that. And really, this is not like about black men versus black women. It's really about black people versus themselves. It's really about the larger problem of racism in our society. It's about us being taught to hate ourselves, us being taught to worship whiteness. And in this case, as a white woman, instead of, fighting one another, we need to build with one another. We need to tear down this myth and lie of white supremacy and learn to love ourselves, have knowledge of ourselves. And I think that that's the biggest problem. Like the lack of knowledge of self is part of the reason why you would have a black man saying something ridiculous like this. And, I just want to point out one thing. Like some people have taken these types of statements as to say I'm like against mixed people, because I raised this particular issue. I posted this article on my Facebook page, and, someone close to me was basically saying, well, you need to stop hating on mixed people and stuff like that. Nothing in my commentary is like attacking mixed children or, biracial children or anything like that. I don't have anything against biracial people. I have a problem with self-hatred. I have a problem with black men disrespecting black women, passing over black women to be with white women. That's what I have a problem with. I have a problem with with our people not having pride, not having self-respect, not having any kind of dignity about themselves. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with Stockholm syndrome mentality, where we are adopting the mentality of our oppressor. That's what I have a problem with. I have a problem with us hating ourselves, hating our skin, hating our hair, hating our noses, and hating our lips. That's what I have a problem with. I have a problem with the whole situation of psychological slavery. We have to smash those chains that are around our minds. That's what I have a problem with. So, yeah, so I just had to share my thoughts about this situation, man. It's just absolutely crazy that you would have, a black man, a dark-skinned black man, basically toasting the fact that he's having some lighter-skinned children. Basically he's toasting his own demise. Basically he's toasting to self-hatred. That's what he's doing. And it's just crazy that he would do this before the whole world. Then you got another, there was at least one other dark-skinned black man at that table while this toast is taking place. I wonder what these men are thinking when this toast is going on. Like this dark-skinned man, as his friend is toasting, having more light-skinned children. Like as a black dark-skinned man, like what are you thinking as you're saying something like that, or as you're listening to something like that? What does that say about you as a man? I mean, these white people couldn't have any kind of respect for somebody that doesn't respect themselves. I mean, does this guy actually think this woman respects him? And he doesn't even respect his own black people, his own black heritage, his own black skin. And it's just crazy, man. But anyway, let me see what you all are saying before I sign out. If I have time, I may do one other live stream. So let me see what you all are saying real quick. I know it's super early in the morning. Probably nobody's on here. Oh, I see a couple of people on here. Shout out to Bonafide 1970. Thanks for tuning in. Shout out to David Bowman. So Bonafide 1970 said this story is very embarrassing, but not surprising. Exactly. It's not surprising, given all these negative things that you've heard these black athletes say and stuff like that. Not just black athletes, but black male entertainers, like about dark-skinned women. You had, like, for instance, that guy, Gilbert Arenas, making all these derogatory comments about Lupita Nyong'o, talking about she's not attractive because she's dark-skinned and stuff like that. So this stuff is commonplace, unfortunately, man. It's because our people have been taught to hate themselves. And one thing that's odd is like some of these people that criticize this, what this guy is saying, these statements that he's making about light-skinned women and stuff like that. And, you know, the fact that he's with this white woman, the same people that criticize him for these statements are the same black women, for instance, who endorse black women dating out, you know, celebrate that, cheer that, you know, they don't have any problem with that. Not realizing that while they're speaking out against colorism and stuff like that, they're promoting colorism by encouraging black women to have these interracial relationships. But that's a whole nother subject that I could do a whole video on. So let me look at the comments a little bit further. Okay, so somebody shared something about Umar Johnson. That's not on topic, but I'm going to eventually get to that about that school and all that kind of stuff. I will talk about that, but I don't want to promote other people's videos on my video. So let me see what other people are saying. Yeah, it is a shame, Bonafide 1970. You know, with all this information available about our history, about our greatness, you still have black people who suffer from self-hatred. Still have black people who worship white people, who worship white women. Still have black men like that. Like the other day, I did this video about that guy, Nick Cannon, you know, coming up with all these excuses to chase after white women. You know, here he is sitting down with this brother from the nation. And instead of building on knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, or, you know, building on freedom, justice, and equality, this brother wants to build on defending the white woman, you know, defending his desire to chase after white women and have biracial kids. Insane, man. Yeah, it is disrespectful to black women. Yeah, you know, this whole toast to lighter skinned kids and, you know, him with this white woman and all that kind of stuff. It is a low key diss to black women. Um, but I just think that too often what happens when we look at these situations is that people say, see, look, the black man's no good. So, you know, and, you know, that just fuels this conflict between black men and women instead of us getting to the core issue, which is us having self-hatred as a people. Instead of us fighting each other, we need to try to build knowledge and understanding, man. We need to be building on having a knowledge of self, having a love for ourselves, a respect for ourselves. That's what we need to do. But too often we turn things like this into fodder for gender wars, fodder for black men and women to go back and forth with each other. And I'm sure, like, probably in the manosphere, you got some people defending this stuff, you know, saluting this stuff. And then you got these angry black women using this as another opportunity to talk about how black men are trash and stuff. And I think that we got to move beyond that, man. That just perpetuates the divide and conquer of our community. We need to address the problem of self-hatred. We need to address the problem of, you know, white supremacy and colorism. That's what we need to focus on. Yeah, it is sick, man. A lot of black men will do anything to get a white woman or Asian woman or something like that. And that example of Dan Gaspy is appalling, is sickening, that this guy would actually move his white mistress into his house with his wife who's going through Alzheimer's. It's outrageous, man. And it's making a spectacle to the whole world. It's making black men look despicable. It's making black men look like complete fools. These black men need to understand that nobody respects you. And when you do things like this, you're not earning any kind of respect from anybody. I mean, how can anybody respect a man that doesn't even respect himself? How can anybody respect a man that doesn't even respect his own woman, that doesn't even respect his own skin color? It's like It reminds me of that situation involving Sammy Sosa. You know, the guy, I think he's from the Dominican Republic. He's a black Dominican or whatever, you know, dark-skinned man. He was so hateful toward himself that he decided to bleach his skin white. That's what he did. He's almost unrecognizable today. And that's what a lot of these dark-skinned men are in fact doing by breeding themselves out of existence. You know, they're not literally bleaching their skin, but by deciding, you know, making a conscious decision to pursue these white women and have children with these white women, they are virtually bleaching the next generation so that they don't have to see themselves when they look at their kids. Just like if somebody has self-hatred, they may not want to look at themselves in the mirror. They may be ashamed of themselves when they look in the mirror. So if they don't like what they see, they want to change what they see, you know, either through surgery or, you know, some kind of perceived bleaching and all that kind of stuff. Or in this case, involving this particular guy, genetic annihilation. So let me see what other people are saying before I sign out. Yeah, so Bonafide said that he would love to hear more positive news about athletes and celebrities who love our people, appreciate Black women and men, and stand up as outstanding role models and representatives for our community. Yeah, I mean, I plan to do more of those videos as well. Like on my, I have a second New Possibilities channel, and I encourage you all to subscribe to that channel. If you go to my main page, you'll see it listed as one of the featured channels. I encourage you all to subscribe to that channel. In that channel, I talk about the positive things that our athletes and entertainers are doing, and just positive things, period. I talk about entrepreneurs. I talk about pioneers, you know, like the first Black person to do this or the first Black person to do that. I talk about all those things. I talk about the charity that, you know, celebrities participate in, people like a Jay-Z and Beyonce. And I talk about things that, like, for instance, LeBron James is doing, you know, creating a school and all that kind of stuff, giving back to his community. I talk about those kind of things, and we do need to build on those kind of positive stories, but these types of stories have to be addressed as well. We have to address the self-hatred that is pervasive in our community. We have to address colorism that exists in our community. It makes no sense for us to be still hating our dark skin in this modern day and age. You know, brother Malcolm X, like all those years ago, back in the 60s, he was asking, like, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate yourself so much that you bleach your skin to try to look like the white man? And here we are, people in 2019 are still bleaching their skin to look like the white man, still trying to be with somebody other than their own. The brother in that same speech, he was, I think it was the same speech where he talked about how the Black woman is the least respected and protected member of society. And this is a prime example of that. It's just a shame, you know, like I was watching this documentary about Sam Cooke, and they were just talking about how it's a shame that that song, Change Is Gonna Come, is still relevant today. And it's a shame that Malcolm X's speech where he talked about the self-hatred in the Black community, it's a shame that that's still relevant today. It's a shame that what the brother talked about when he said Black woman being least respected and protected is still true today. So yeah, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate your support. So please rate, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content. So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings to each and every one of you.